Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Rich Sellers Podcast. Today, I have Brent from AMC Pathfinder with us, and today we are going to talk about AMC, Amazon Marketing Cloud. Hi, Brent. How are you doing?
Hey Sammy, I'm doing all right, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we love to have you in our podcast, and I think this is the second or third time we are talking, and we are talking about AMC for the second time because I think AMC have changed a lot since we last discussed about AMC. Now, it have got a lot of user friendly features that we can use as well. So why not you start with let's assume the audience who are watching, they are intermediate sellers, right? For them
hmm
to understand AMC, how do you describe what is AMC, how it can benefit a seller, right?
Sure. Yeah. So to review, you're probably best thinking about AMC as the place where all the data from advertising, Amazon DSP, and different third-party data, and also vendor information. Because not everyone listening to your podcast is a 3P seller. Some of them might be vendors as well, 1P on Amazon. All of that information is aggregated and collected. And AMC stands for Amazon Marketing Cloud. So the C is for cloud. Naturally, that means it lives up on the cloud. Specifically, it's connected to Amazon's own MWS service, and it has what's called an
Mhm.
S3 storage bucket associated with it. So this is Amazon's data being hosted on Amazon's hardware that you are basically dialing into, and it is this place where everything is aggregated and collected. Uh, and the main thing to understand with AMC, Amazon always likes to stress this, is they call it, I think the term they use is privacy safe data clean room. It sounds very technical, but basically what it means is we can see detailed event level data. So if people are adding to cart or buying, or if they see an ad, if they click an ad, without actually seeing the information about those specific users. So we might know in aggregate that Sammy, you are part of a group of people that like saw an ad and then clicked it, and then a week later clicked another ad, but we don't know any information about you, Sammy, as a person, right? And that's what they
Mhm.
mean by privacy and data safe. That's really important for Amazon, and it's really important for other data clean rooms from other similar vendors. So that's like maybe one of the most important things to understand about AMC. We can see this detailed information, but we can't see the information about a person. And this is where it all lives, kind of aggregated in the cloud.
Got it. Definitely. Okay, so going in depth a little bit, when you talk about AMC, let's try to understand a journey of a customer. Okay, let's assume
hmm
we are a brand, we are running DSP, right? We are running DSP, and an audience or a customer have either clicked or viewed our ad on DSP, and
hmm
they have waited maybe 2 3 days, and then they have came to Amazon, and then they were followed by our sponsored product ads, right? And might be they have went in our listing, viewed our listing, but decided not to purchase, right?
hmm
And
hmm
again, we retargeted them through sponsored display, views remarketing, right? So is it like we are getting all the journey points of customers through AMC, and we can see which ads they have interacted, and maybe we can craft more audiences out of it and to retarget them in a better way?
Yeah, that's like three really good questions all at once, Sammy. I like it. So yeah, the first scenario you laid out, where someone travels through a journey, they see DSP, maybe they hit a sponsored products ad, interact with it some kind, but then finally they buy because they were retargeted by sponsored display. That would be a classic like customer journey that someone might
Yeah.
take on Amazon. Of course, they themselves are probably not aware of it, but we as marketers are keenly tuned into this and want to know how this person came to the listing. Um, and Amazon typically is what's called last touch attribution, right? So whoever is the final campaign or ad that the person touches, clicks, looks at, whatever it might be. In the case of sponsored display, if someone sees an ad and they purchase, in many cases, that campaign does get credit. And there's some debate about how to weigh that properly with everything else. But let's leave that aside for a second. Traditionally, everything on Amazon is last touch attribution. But what you can do with AMC, and we're going to the advanced class right here straight away, is you can start to weigh those models differently. So you can say, um, everything in this sequence of events gets equal credit, or actually, I'd like to weigh more heavily the first interaction this person had with an ad. In this case, it would be like, oh, DSP gets a lot of credit because it was the one that introduced this shopper to the brand and to this whole funnel. Or you can say like the last one gets most of the credit, like is the traditional way of doing it. But the point is, like with AMC, it's kind of up to you. So you don't have to stick with Amazon's model. Since you're able to see the whole journey, you can weigh that however you like. And so this equal weight, weight at the front end, weight at the back end, however you want to attribute that. And it's actually useful to do that differently. Sometimes you'll say, okay, let's look at all our purchases for the last 30 days with these campaigns. Now let's do it weighed with the first touch. Let's weigh it with the last touch. Let's weigh it with all of them equally. You get different information, a different perspective with each of those. So it's not even like you need to use just one or the other and only stick to that forever. That's not the case at all. You can use whichever one you wish, really. And that can help you, building these different attribution models can help you determine how to tweak your whole advertising sequence of events, if you will, your whole campaign funnel.
Got it. Do you think a normal seller can use, or is there any dashboard that we can use apart from going to a third party software company? Is it available for normal sellers as well, or they have to know code, they have to know coding, SQL to access AMC?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there are a couple, let's call them obstacles, but a lot
Hmm.
of people listening to this, you're entrepreneurs. When someone says something's an obstacle, you say, all right, cool, that's a challenge. It's my job to overcome it. That's what I do. Um, but right now, we use AMC primarily for our clients who are spending a higher budget on Amazon DSP. However, I have heard and talked to several agencies that are starting small amounts of DSP campaigns and small amounts of spend just to get the access to AMC unlocked. And then they set it up because you have to request through a third party tool provider or Amazon directly
Hmm.
to get AMC actually set up and started. Because once you do that, you start collecting data. So, um, yeah, the reason to do that is basically just to have a large enough time window of data collected that you can start to use it. So right now, strictly speaking, you need to be spending on Amazon DSP in order to have access to AMC and have it start collecting data. In the future, I suspect, I don't have any like official word on this from Amazon. I suspect that that might change and that you'll be able to use AMC without spending on Amazon DSP. But for right now, you have to. Um, and I kind of get it. Well, some of these agencies and sellers are spending small amounts on DSP just to get access to it so they can have a longer history of data to use later on. That's pretty clever. Now, another thing that you mentioned that we should probably touch on is the technical ability, right? So at Pathfinder, we have two people who are like AMC Advanced certified. It is one of the certifications you can get through just the Learning Console. And both of them are also like pretty decent at SQL. So SQL is not really a programming language. It's more like a
Hmm.
database querying language. And this is what you need in order to understand, in order to extract insights from AMC. There are third-party tools, one of which we use, that allows you to do that in a bit more of like a, like a drag and drop kind of like click and point interface. But we do both things because access to AMC itself is actually free. It doesn't cost you anything. It's just that there are costs associated with it, and those costs are having someone who is competent enough to do SQL, maybe a third-party tool that you can use to visualize the data a little bit better, because what you get out of it is quite raw, and paying team members that are smart enough to do all that stuff. So while it itself is not costly, there are costs associated with it, and there is some technical knowledge that needs to be in place, and that person needs to be reading the documentation, understanding the nuances of AMC. I logged in
Hmm.
to AMC earlier this week to get ready for this discussion, and every time I do, there's like new stuff that's being added to it. Maybe the best example, Sammy, I can think of is some scribe and save, which is like
Yeah.
a piece of data that we've had in DSP for a long time, really applicable for CPG goods. So if someone's buying vitamins or toothpaste or something like that, they want to make sure that it gets delivered to them every 30, 45 days. And so this piece of data was recently added to AMC. And so now you can pull that in addition to all these other pieces of like event level data and put that in there. So that person should probably be logging into AMC on a regular basis through the actual Amazon dashboard, not a third party tool, and looking at the documentation and seeing what's new in the interface and everything, because Amazon is definitely investing in making AMC
Mhm.
better and better, like all the time.
Yeah. Okay, I have two questions in it. Okay. First, you said
Sure.
that there has to be a certain amount of DSP spent that justifies whether we should invest the resources, because investing in resources, that means if you're hiring team or going for a software, it will take some
Hmm.
money, right? So what is, based on your experience, is a right amount or justified amount on a monthly basis in
Hmm.
DSP ad spend that should give us a signal that this is the right time we should start focusing or getting AMC so that we can calculate the data in a more granular way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, let me back up a second and set the stage. So part of the problem I would say we've had with DSP through the years is we're able to run campaigns that are reaching that mid and high funnel. Sometimes that includes things like video. Increasingly now, because video on Prime is like a placement we can use, and there's more and more overlap between sponsored display and DSP. So we run a lot of sponsored display campaigns for clients that are maybe ones we used to think about doing on DSP, and
Mhm.
then they can graduate to DSP later on. To give you a very direct, straightforward answer, I think that 10K USD, as in 10,000 US dollars a month, is probably a good starting point in order to make fully effective use of AMC when paired with DSP. Uh, and the reason for that is not because like there's some threshold that Amazon needs you to reach, or like we as an
Yeah.
agency want to get like big fees or something. It's actually just volume of data. So if you have enough data from that DSP spend every month, that is what's going to give you enough data to actually work with in the AMC clean room, so to speak. So that allows you to go into the laboratory and perform those complex analysis and create customized queries and reports, pulling that data out of there. Um, Really, what you're looking for. This is kind of what we discovered with AMC. It's like the missing link or like the evolutionary gap that we had before, that finally allows us to communicate and explain to clients what is going on with the interaction between DSP and sponsored ads. Because before, these two things were like separate and like not really well connected, but now AMC is that connective tissue. It's that little evolutionary missing link that allows us to query and understand. Um, so that is the way we look at it at Pathfinder, and that's the minimum spend that we see is probably the best. Obviously, that's not attainable for everyone, and like I said, we have seen people spending $1,000 a month on DSP and then requesting access to AMC just so they can start the instance up and just so they can start gathering. Even if right now they don't have enough spend, they will in the future. They're assuming,
Mhm.
or they'll be able to just query their sponsored ads, which is useful in itself. But where it really shines is understanding the full funnel and understanding the connection between Amazon DSP and sponsored ads.
Yeah, actually, we were looking at one of the brands, Brandmetrics data, which tells like how many customers are in the awareness phase, consideration, and purchase phase, right? And we saw there are
Mm-hmm,
so
mm-hmm,
few brands, so few customers in the awareness phase. So in the brand metrics, is basically gives only the brand searches that are happening. But in the consideration phase, it has so many customers which they were not targeting or retargeting through, because I think that kind of customer who are in consideration phase, who have viewed your product but they haven't purchased, so
mm-hmm.
that can be only targeted, I think, either through DSP or through sponsored display ads through retargeting, right? So I think DSP, with the introduction of DSP as well, when it was introduced, it got a lot of features. I think the last feature I was seeing one of the podcasts where introduction of sponsored products new to brand metrics, and
Mm-hmm.
also customer lifetime value, right? So do you think these two features, or these two metrics, is really important to structure the whole funnel, that how much we are spending, or let's assume we are spending $10,000 a month in sponsored, sorry, in DSP, and we have a good new to brand purchases happening, right? And on the
Mm-hmm.
other hand, we also get the metrics on customer lifetime value in DSP with the connection of AMC. Now we can focus more on, if we have higher new to brand and we know our lifetime value is higher for that product, we can focus more on putting more budget towards display, or sorry, DSP. It is something that, do you think this new to brand, especially for sponsored products, is really important, that we were missing out and it took so many years for Amazon to bring it out?
Sammy, you've kind of summed it up really well. I don't have too much
Yeah.
to add, I'm afraid. I think that your analysis is spot on. One thing that I think AMC is better for is like these CPG or repeat purchase products or catalogs where you have a lot of cross selling.
Hmm.
At Pathfinder, historically, we have, I would say, a minority of our clients that are CPG like products or products that are conducive to a lot of repurchasing. We work with a lot of durable goods that are higher priced products. You know, a lot of our clients have products that are 100, 200, $300. And so the customer lifetime value on those is
Hmm.
focused around purchasing one product once. Maybe they come back for something else in the lineup later on. But um, those metrics are a little bit less valuable for AMC, we found.
Hmm.
It's really the clients we have that are investing in DSP and also have product lines where people will cross purchase or come back and purchase again, is where the customer lifetime value discussion is more valuable because the ACOS, if we just look at sponsored products, might be really good on a product that's $350, right? Because even if we spend $50 on a bunch of keywords and the conversion rate's not that high on some of them, because people are looking at expensive options, so the conversion rate, generally speaking, is lower. The ACOS looks really good, right? But that might not be the case for supplements. I mean, we still work with many supplement clients and have in the past, and maybe their ACOS is 70, 80% on some of their top keywords. But that's not really a full read and understanding of the marketplace. If only you're looking at, okay, well, what's our ACOS on this particular main keyword?
Hmm.
If you're able to pull in customer lifetime value, average order, um, in these more complex calculations, if you want to call them that, then you can start to understand the whole picture and piece it together. Um, and that basically is a far better tool for us to help clients understand what we're actually doing for them over a longer period of time and across different ad types. And that makes the conversation we have with them much more valuable and substantial, let's call it. So this for us was like a key piece because, and I know you probably talk about this with other guests, but with Amazon's new fees that have now been announced regarding
Yeah.
having too much stock, too little stock, some of these fees are barely even legible. Like people don't even
Hmm.
understand exactly what they're being charged for until they actually get the bill, and then they're like, "Wow, okay, now I can make sense of this." This is a conversation we have with a lot of clients. When I was at Prosper and MDS like 2 weeks ago, that was all anyone was talking about. It seemed like so it seems like since Amazon continues to take a larger chunk and sellers are feeling more and more pressure, as advertisers, it's incumbent on us to try to explain to them the full spectrum of what we're doing and how that provides value. Otherwise, we don't have a place in the ecosystem, right? So we need to justify our presence and justify our spend, and we need data to be able to back that up. We can't just come in and wave our hands around and expect them to believe us. So that's not the way things work anymore on Amazon, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. So let's take a notch forward. So what we are thinking is with AMC, Amazon is just trying to put more data points of DSP out to sellers so that we can understand DSP more a better way. Also,
Yeah.
one funny story I'll tell you. We were launching one product of, and this is a CPG brand, right? And they had multiple products in their line, and they're launching, I think, fourth product. We identified there
Hmm.
are certain zip codes where our competition, which product they were planning to launch, certain zip codes there were very less competition. I mean, the main competitors were not ranking at all, but those zip codes, based on our brand's fulfillment reports, we saw that zip code has good demand, but none of the competitors were able to rank in those zip codes for the main relevant keywords that we are targeting initially. So we arranged a meeting with Amazon's API team because we know that Amazon DSP allows geo ranking, geo targeting. It shows the geo, like the geographical data, right? Which state, which city is
Hmm.
getting more impressions and all. So we try to reach out to them, and we sit on a meeting, and they say to us that we don't have any API yet that tells you for your organic ranks about where or which zip code where you're ranking right now. So how we did it was we tried to do it manually. We identified the top 10 competitors of ours, and we figure out what are the top 20 relevant keywords in which we have to rank initially. And because we already have the
Hmm.
list of zip codes that we were planning to rank for. But the problem was Amazon decides themselves which warehouse the product will go, right? The inventory will go. So we tried to push Amazon by showing more traffic in that region. We targeted through DSP and Google Ads by bringing traffic to that specific zip code. And slowly,
Mm-hmm.
little bit inventory started moving in that zip code. And once Amazon saw that few units are moving in that zip code, they shift few inventory to that. Also, one thing we noticed was when we had higher quantity than normal run rate, let's say 20-30% more inventory than normal run rate, they were giving us more visibility in that region. So I'm still doubtful about Amazon that if they are going to launch any API specifically to 3P sellers to identify which zip code the ranking for these products are at which place, right? Or we have to do manually. I'm not too sure about it, but I think this is a feature that we were looking at because we already know that for every zip code, the ranking for both sponsored products and organic are different. What is your take on it?
Well, first of all, that's a really ingenious solution. I love the idea that Amazon's moving inventory between different FCs or other, warehousing type things that they have in their network,
Mhm.
because it's more than just FCs, um, based on the inertia, let's call it, of the sales for that product. That's really cool. I just have a question for you, actually. When you say you did it manually, how did you do it manually? Did you use a third party tool? Did you have people on the team change zip code, change their VPN, something like
Yeah,
that, and then search and just
that
record
was a
it?
tough process. That was a tough process, a lot of
It
time
is.
consuming process because we have to do everything manually. What was happening is
Yeah.
Amazon, if we did it multiple times through one VPN, then Amazon started tracking it and nothing was happening. We were seeing the same data every time. Then we have to change the VPN to get refresh the data, and then we have to again go. So that is how we did it because the keywords were not so much, 20 keywords. So it did took some time, but not so much.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I guess if you have enough people on that and you have a repeatable process they can follow,
Yeah.
it probably works out all right. Yeah, so there's no question, and I don't debate that the ranking organically and also through ads is different depending on geography, because Amazon knows where those things are in their network, and that's built into the algorithm. It's kind of why the whole question or discussion about ads is so different from Google, because there is such a link between the organic and the paid on Amazon, and it's undeniable. Where on Google you might be ranking on for some keywords and you might be advertising for them. Those two things are seen as much more separate.
Mhm.
And then of course something like Facebook, you don't really have like keywords in the same sense, even though people are searching, of course, right? So that discussion is kind of irrelevant. Um, I also agree with you, Sammy, that I don't think at any point there's going to be a provision where Amazon adds something to the API or something to their data sources, let's call it, where it gives us rank by geo. I think that's going to have to be done either manually or with third party tools that are clever enough to keep up with the arms race there and make sense of that information. Um, but the targeting by zip code is something that has existed on most advertising platforms for years, right? So this is something that's only come recently to Amazon, and even then, like in a pretty small way. I'm actually not up to date on this. I don't think that you can pull an intelligent report anywhere from sponsored ads that tells you this information. And I know that it's available targeting by zip code, or what's called GMA, which is like I think it's called Greater Market Area. It's like,
Mhm.
Los Angeles area. So it's not like just these zip codes in Los Angeles. It gives you like a demographic zone or something like that, a regional zone. And that's new to DSP. I'm not sure if we've even used that yet, to be totally honest with you. But do we see a future where that data is published and available through AMC? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that'll come out in the wash eventually. I have no doubt about that. Um, but that discussion is about ad targeting and ad performance. That's not a question of organic rank and ads rank, which I think that Amazon has no or few incentives to make available to us or sellers or other service providers. So I doubt that will ever happen. But do I think the information will come out for
Mhm.
geo stuff? I do. I do think it will, and that'd be interesting to see how we can integrate that into everything else. Um, there are definitely use cases for zip codes. I mean, the most famous one I always give is like, don't try to sell swimming shorts in the winter. Um, but of course, the counter argument some people have is, well, what if someone in Pennsylvania, where I'm from originally in the East Coast, in the middle of December wants to go to Florida, but they want to buy swimming shorts to go on their trip? Okay, I get it. But at the same time, you can make some like reasonable assessments and reasonable judgments to say like, well, only people in Florida or the coast of like Texas on the Gulf are going to want to buy swim trunks in December because they can maybe go swimming where they live. Um, so that's something that, like anything else with ads, though, you have to test. You can't just make an assumption, set it, and leave it at that. You actually have to test it and compare the results between several different campaigns or several different efforts you're running in order to make sense of it. And yeah, that information will certainly be in Marketing Cloud in time, but I don't think it's there
Yeah,
yet.
yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Oh, Brent, now let me ask you one question. Name or suggest to our audience one software that you think we can like get all the AMC related data that can help us 3P sellers to accumulate all without going into the SQL or coding. Name one software
Mhm.
that can help us that you have tried.
Sure. So, I mean, this is a pretty easy answer for me because we've worked with this company for almost 3 years, but we use IntentWise. And
Hmm.
IntentWise has a module for AMC, and it allows you to write or run, I should say, pre-seeded queries. So they have like preset queries, and these are like the basic ones you might want, like customer journey, allocation and spend, revenue and exposure between different avenues. Those are the two ones I can think of like off the top of my head. So it's like touch points, those kind of things. And they have a bunch of those like pre-allocated queries. Those are really good for teaching you, right? And IntentWise, and I'm guessing other tools, they do charge
Hmm.
like per query run. And really the
Okay.
best way to look at AMC, Sammy, is not like a reporting tool. It's like a specific question answering tool. So if you have a specific business question that you want answered, AMC is probably one of the stronger tools you have, one of the more powerful tools you have if you can formulate the query correctly. And the ones that IntentWise has, we use just to get like a basic understanding. But then we'll write our own ones or sometimes work with them to make really complicated ones and have those run like on a routine basis, not every day, not every week, but when we're pulling information for reports or trying to answer a specific business question that a client brings to us or that we come up with internally and we think might be answerable by AMC. So they've been a good partner for that, but we also run SQL ourselves.
Hmm.
And then the question becomes, how do you get it out and visualize it? Well, IntentWise has a thing built into their software for that too. It's pretty good. That can allow you to actually visualize it, but we can pull it into our own database and use a visualization software to do that as well. So we do both things. And I think that long term, building up some expertise if you're a seller on Amazon and having your own AMC instance, because data, I've heard this said before, but data is the new oil, right? So this is a very
Yeah.
valuable resource and you need to own and control your data. A company like IntentWise, there's others out there, of course, can help you do this, right? They can help you connect the
Hmm.
data sources to your own database, and you can work with them and have some on there. But really, I would encourage you, if you're an agency or a seller of any size, to own your own data and start to take ownership over that stuff. So that way, you can bring it between service providers or between different visualization softwares. So I would say IntentWise. There's other ones out there. I talked to some guys at Prosper called Ceres Analytics. They also look pretty
Hmm.
good. Um, yeah, they also seem like they really know what they're talking about, from what I can tell. Um, yeah, so those are two that just come to mind.
Got it. Got it. Okay, Brent. I think we always have lovely discussion with you. So before we finish, where do people find you?
Yeah, sure. We're at amzpathfinder.com. You can also go to my personal website. It's brent.bike. Yeah, instead of .com, it's .bike. So
Hmm.
BIKE. um, yeah, and that'll just take you to like my Calendly page if you want to book a call with me just to talk, or our various like social channels for the business. But yeah, amzpathfinder.com. And if you want to see me somewhere this year, I'll be at Seller Sessions Live in May in London quite soon. That's coming up in like 2 months, month and a half. So yeah, that's it.
Great, great, great. Thank you so much, Brent, again for joining and sharing such valuable knowledge about AMC. Uh, Thank you so much. We'll again try to bring you if we get more questions about AMC, and we will try to bring those questions again in the next podcast.
Got it. Thanks, Sammy. Hope I could
Thank you so
say
much.
something useful for everyone.
Yeah. Bye. Take care, man.
Bye.